Hey y'all, so let's dive into grade 3, unit 7. We're revisiting area and perimeter, which are really big priority standards for third grade. And so this is a great time in this unit now to revisit that learning and to really build procedural fluency with those two skills. You have here at the front of the slide deck, right under lessons 1, 2, and 3, you have this visual, and I'd just like to encourage you to include this visual, to maybe make it an anchor chart, have it somewhere in your room where students have this visual, and specifically they have it where they can see that it's the side lengths for perimeter, and they can see the area is the squares inside. Remember, we don't do the formula formally until 4th grade, so we're not really capitalizing on the formula idea. We're capitalizing on what does it really mean, and we're adding the side lengths all the way around. We're counting the squares inside. We're seeing that, well, the fastest way to count those squares is probably with multiplication, because I have equal rows and columns. And if I said that I had 7 rows and 5 in each column, could I figure out the area quickly? Oh, I'd use multiplication. So what I encourage you to do is have that conversation with your students prior to this quick practice or as day 1, and then keep revisiting it every day. So every day, boys and girls, what is area? I say area is the squares we count inside. It's the square units that take up that space. What is perimeter? Perimeter is all the way around. You add up the sides. Perimeter is the side lengths that are all the way around a figure. So then you get to lesson 1. And what we do when we get to lesson 1 here is you have these 2 blue slides where we're looking for what is the area and what is the perimeter. Boys and girls, what is the perimeter? Think about it. Have students do some calculating. Class, they would tell you the perimeter, and as they do, you can delete that cloud. It's 20 centimeters. Boys and girls, perimeter is all the way around. We add up the sides. If you need to scaffold for students, you may need to say, boys and girls, if this side is 8 centimeters, what side is this? Class, 8 centimeters. Boys and girls, if this side is 2, what side is this? Class, 2 centimeters. You may need to mark it up in the first couple of days of the quick practice. Okay, so these would be ways to scaffold that learning when they're not able to come up with that formal answer quickly because they're still calculating the side lengths. If that's the case, you can help guide them and then let go of that scaffold as you get into those later lessons where students now should have that down. Okay, so you'll use the side lengths if necessary. Boys and girls, what's the area? The scaffold for this, if they don't know that 8 times 2 is 16, or they forget they're not using the visual, is remember, we're counting the squares inside. If this is 2, that means I have 2 rows, and then that means that I have 8 columns here. We'll split each one. And I'm actually calculating the squares inside. What's the fastest way to do that? I have 2 groups of 8. Well, that's 2 times 8. I have 8 groups of 2. I could do 8 times 2. Either way, they may need to see. Now, remember, area is the space inside. So if you also choose to draw a shape around it, that would work as well, and color it in. Remember, the area is the inside. The perimeter is all the way around. Anything you can do in the first couple lessons is going to help students to have that understanding. Okay, so now you have area and perimeter here. Then you get to lessons 1, or lessons 2, I should say. Nope, there's 2 different parts here. The next part of that lesson, you have lessons 1 through 6, you're going to introduce this piece. So the first 2 slides are always going to be what's the area, what's the perimeter, and I just gave you some scaffolds. Then the next piece is going to be where you have the area is given and a side length is unknown. So now it is that a rigorous approach to, well, it's one thing to know how to find the area and perimeter when I'm given the side lengths. It's another thing when I know one, like area, and I know it's one side length and I need to figure out the other. So if one is this side length, what would this side length be? Well, I know that I generally multiply those because I have 1 row and I have this many in each row. What would this number need to be if the answer is 8? Boys and girls, 8. I can delete that cloud. You're right. Boys and girls, 1 times 8 equals 8. The area is 8 square centimeters. What's area? Area is the space inside, the square units. Okay, so then we can say, well, then what's the perimeter? Boys and girls think about it. They would add up the sides, right? They'd get their answer. They would say 18 centimeters. Boys and girls, what's perimeter? Perimeter is all the way around. We add up the sides. Okay, so you're listening to those choral responses because you're going to hear a lot of incorrect answers. As you hear incorrect answers, you can then stop for a moment and say, oh, let's just review real quick. What's this side length? 8. What's this side length? 1. Boys and girls, 8 and 8, 16. Add 2 more, 18. Go to the next one. You don't want to have this huge dialogue of how did you solve it? Like, we don't want to get into too much math talk here because it is intended to build fluency, but you do want to stop and help students think through the process quickly if that's necessary. So just follow your prompts here. You have slide 2 or lesson 2. You have 4 slides. 2 of them are just identifying area and perimeter. 2 of them have unknown side lengths and unknown area or perimeter. Slide 3 or lesson 3, you can see here's my yellow slide. Lesson 3, 2 are identifying, 2 have to find unknown side lengths. And then you'll repeat that process. All right, my friends, keep in mind that the formula for area and perimeter is not introduced formally in the standards until 4th grade. Your job is to make sure students visually understand what it means and that we use multiplication and addition to help us identify the area and the perimeter. Have fun.